Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
Well, it's December, so that means one thing, and that is Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, Happy Holidays, and whatever else I'm leaving out. In the studio with us today here in Nashville, Tennessee, Jack Sharkey is back with us.
Greetings. Happy holiday greetings to everybody out there. It's super exciting to do this.
I'm a traditionalist, so I'll say Merry Christmas. But today we're going to talk about Christmas music, the traditions, songs that mean something. And as I started going through this, started to suss it out, I realized how much Christmas music has been tied into Christmas films.
Right.
So we'll talk about that a little bit, too.
Absolutely. That's great.
Because, you know, there's some great hits out there that a lot of people don't realize that maybe came from Christmas movies, going all the way back to about 1942, in fact.
White Christmas.
White Christmas.
The first one, example that comes to my mind.
Well, and since you have brought that up, we'll just start right there.
Okay.
Absolutely my favorite all-time Christmas song happens to be Bing Crosby's White Christmas.
Of course.
Irving Berlin wrote that. He actually wrote it for another film, from what I read.
Oh, okay.
And it didn't make it into that film, but it did make it into the movie Holiday Inn, which Irving Berlin wrote. He wrote, I believe, the screenplay. He also wrote quite a few of the songs, if not all of the songs for that. Easter Bonnet and
okay. Yeah. Now you see, I'm going to have to watch the movie tonight because they'll bring it back. That's
Easter Parade. That's
Easter Parade.
He wrote Easter Parade for that. What a lot of people don't realize is the actual song White Christmas, which went on to be just a ginormous hit for Bing Crosby, was not supposed to be the hit. There was a Valentine's song. Let me see if I can find it here. In fact, I was looking it up. Boy, you think I'd have my notes together.
Well, it's a Christmas special. You're busy, you're shopping, you're imbibing, you have eggnog on your brain. It's,
Be careful. It's My Heart. That was supposed to be the big hit. It was supposed to be the Valentine's Day release.
Which I've never heard.
Yeah,
I just don't
went
know.
so far underneath the radar. But White Christmas, and of course the movie was titled Holiday Inn. Now, here's a little bit of useless trivia for you. We've all stayed in one. We've all stayed in a Holiday Inn or a Holiday Inn Express.
Yeah.
That hotel brand name literally came from this movie.
I always wondered if it did, and it does. Okay, so that's kind of cool because this would have been right after the war,
right,
when the chain hotels and restaurants were starting to happen, and I kind of love that. That's actually great useless trivia. I like that. Yeah.
And part of the set of that hotel was based on an actual inn that is not in Connecticut, where Holiday Inn was based out of. It's an actual inn in Northern California that I think is on the Russian River, and you can still stay at that place. And the set and scenery for the movie was built off that hotel.
Oh, no kidding!
Yeah,
because you get such a New England vibe, obviously, from that movie, and I would think anything in Northern California would be the exact opposite. But it's the magic of movies. It's kind of cool.
But I digress.
Sure.
When we talk about music as kids growing up, Christmas music growing up, it was a lot different back then for us than it is for our kids today. Yeah. We have Debbie and I have one son, Patrick, who literally swears that Die Hard and Lethal Weapon are Christmas movies.
That's like those Facebook memes. Is this dress black or is it, gray or whatever? Is Die Hard a Christmas movie or is it not? I'm in the camp of it's not a Christmas movie, but that's just me. That's just me.
Although, in fact, when you say that, because the big hit really that is associated with Die Hard is Christmas in Hollis, which was Run DMC.
Fabulous. One of my all-time favorites, right? It's just a great song. And one of the fun things was introducing that to my kids when they were younger. And I didn't introduce it to them as a connection to the movie. I introduced it to them as a great song. And, my kids thought I was nuts because they were maybe, that middle school age when you think your parents are nuts to begin with.
Right.
And they thought I was nuts. My youngest daughter still laughs at me whenever that song comes on because I loved it. It's such a great tune. She didn't realize that, that was my age group of people and all. And yeah, Hollis, that's a great Run DMC's Christmas song maybe has to be in the top 5. It has to be in the top 5.
I guess what I remember is, or what I read was Christmas in Hollis. What is Christmas in Hollis? And Christmas in Hollis, that's where those Run DMC was from. It was from Hollis, Queens, New York. Yeah.
See, as an original East Coaster, right? So that reference was immediate because you get it, and you knew people from Hollis, and maybe you had family members from Queens, whatever. So it was an immediate thing. But I imagine once you got outside of the tri-state area, it was a little like, what is exactly going on here? Yeah.
So it kind of ties in all together that when you hear a certain song in a movie or a Christmas television show. Now, let me preface that by saying we're not talking Hallmark movies.
Oh, good. That's a good thing.
Now, I'm a Hallmark Christmas movie fan. Just ask my wife. I'll sit and, I'll binge on them.
Okay.
Because it's harmless.
I've never watched one, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, when we get done here, we're going to go in the living room, turn one on.
I'm on. Yeah.
You'll last 5 minutes. By the way, let's not forget, you brought the official rum, I guess, or the unofficial rum for the podcast that you and I are doing.
For the Between the Notes podcast.
Between the Notes.
That's
and that
right.
is...
It's Diplomatico, and this is their exclusive Reserva.
Right.
And so I would just like the people at Diplomatico to know that we are, in fact, a champion of your rum for our podcast. So,
which it's getting competitive because mine is bourbon, yours is rum.
Exactly. And last time when I appeared, and it's the same thing when I hang out with my son, both are bourbon drinkers. And I'm not a good bourbon drinker. The taste lasts with me for an awfully long time. And I was like, well, you know what?
It's like a good cigar.
Yeah. So when I came in, I said, this is just for my presence here in the studio,
right? So
I can keep up with you. That's all. Yeah.
Well, that's okay because we seem to be going down a rabbit hole with alcohol when you do a podcast.
It's not Christmas yet. Yeah. Put some eggnog in there, and then we're ready to be right back in.
I was going to say, when we go watch the Hallmark Christmas movie, you may want to uncork that.
So speaking of Christmas movies, my favorite, first of all, having children of that age, Elf with Will Ferrell is among, right? Wonderful movie. But Scrooged with Bill Murray is one of the greatest Christmas movies in my list.
So underrated.
Yeah. And you think, and there's 2 reasons why that movie goes above and beyond. And that is David Johansen, or as most people might know him as Buster Poindexter, played the cab driver ghost of Christmas, whatever. Utterly brilliant. And then Carol Kane is, I don't know why she hasn't won every Academy Award that could possibly be made for somebody, or a comedic actress for that movie. Just that alone, fabulous. So I needed to have a plug in there for Scrooge because it's my favorite.
Well, and the all-important thing being left out, the guy who wrote the music, Danny Elfman from Oingo Boingo.
Yes, right? And probably every other really cool movie and TV show that you can think of.
You get him and Tim Burton together.
And it's wonderful, wonderful stuff. That's a great point.
Yeah. So if you had to rate top 10 Christmas movies.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're going to get into the music because that's what we're all talking about. Elf fits in about where?
Well, Elf would be number 2 for me. Let me correct that. Elf is number 3. And that's how you can tell that we didn't script this because I'm trying to do the math in my head. Elf is number 3. Scrooge is number 2. And then the 1951 A Christmas Carol with I can't think of his name right now. It's in black and white. It
wasn't George C. Scott. It was the guy before him.
No, this was from 1951.
Yeah.
That's the all-time favorite. To me, that's the ultimate Dickens Christmas Carol. There's 2 English ones. One's from the 30s maybe, and one's from 51. And I can picture the fella who played the lead. I can't think of his name right now. brilliant. And so I live for that one every year. And then number 4, you got to go with It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And then at this point, I don't know about a number 5, if I even have a number 5. Probably Miracle on 34th Street, the original.
The original.
Yeah.
With young Natalie Wood.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
With me, I said, of course, number 1 would be Holiday Inn. Number 2, and this one, and it gets back to the music.
Right.
I would almost have to say Elf.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is there was a time several years ago, I have Elf on DVD.
Mm-hmm.
And it was late at night. I think Debbie had gone to bed, and Debbie and her daughter Lindsay are like, "Yeah, we're not watching Elf with you. So you're on your own. Pour a drink. See you. We'll see you in the morning." So I put Elf on, and I don't really associate that movie with a soundtrack per se,
Right.
except I fell asleep when the movie was over.
Okay.
Might have even fallen asleep while the movie was on, and it goes back to the homepage of the DVD and plays the music over and over.
It just
and
runs
over.
it, yeah.
So I probably was sleeping on the couch for a couple hours just being embedded.
It's implanted in your brain
so every
now.
time I hear that, I go, Elf,
Yeah.
So yeah, Elf is up there. Miracle on 34th Street, the Natalie Wood version, I love. It's a Wonderful Life. I love, and it's funny because neither Miracle on 34th Street or It's a Wonderful Life had big music soundtracks to them.
Right.
They were almost dramatic endeavors.
Yeah.
And music was really not a consideration.
See, in our house on Christmas Eve when the kids were little, you had It's a Wonderful Life in the TV in the background on mute, and then Christmas carols playing over it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that was just our thing. But I also lied when I said my 5th was Miracle on 34th Street, because I've forgotten probably the ultimate Christmas movie of our generation, which is A Christmas Story with Ralphie and the BB gun. I mean, just the fact that I forgot that shows I'm a little bit out of my Christmas mode right now, and I need to get back into it because it's a brilliant movie.
And now we have a sequel coming out.
I'm not a sequel lover. The fact that the kid that played Ralphie is involved in it, who, by the way, was the supervisor, the Elf supervisor in Elf. So
really,
yes,
Ralph Billingsley, I think is his name.
Peter Billingsley.
Billingsley. Yeah. He played Ralph.
He played Ralph, and he was the lead elf supervisor.
Yeah.
He's the one that gives Buddy the hard time about the amount of Etch-a-Sketches that he had made during the day. So there's my contribution for useless trivia of the day. But you can't forget that movie either.
When we get back to just good old Christmas music and take it out of the films, one of my favorite traditions every Christmas morning was to put on Johnny Mathis and all of his great Christmas hits.
Sure, it's a wonderful record.
Jingle Bells and Sleigh Ride and Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas.
Yeah.
Not too many guys did it better than Johnny Mathis.
His take on Sleigh Ride is the ultimate take on it. And that includes my love of Ella Fitzgerald's take on Sleigh Ride, right? But Johnny Mathis's take on that, because it's such exuberance, there's such joy in what he's singing, and you can't sort of help it. Where Ella kind of comes at you a little cool, because Ella was way cooler than all of us.
She jazzes it up.
Right?
Yeah.
And we all wanted to be like Ella's friend because she was way cool. You knew if you could be Ella's friend, you had made it. But Johnny was just like, man, I'm having a great time. Come on. And that's what Christmas can be all about. Yeah.
In the studio with us here in Nashville, Tennessee. It's not quite snowing outside.
No, but it's raining and 35 degrees.
Yeah, it's getting cold enough. Sitting across the podcast table from me is co-host of Between the Notes.
Can't wait for that.
We're going to be debuting here shortly.
Shortly, yeah.
Jack Sharkey's with us.
Hi, everyone. I'm Larry Butler, and I want to send you a free digital copy of my new book, The Singer-Songwriter Rulebook, 101 Ways to Help You Improve Your Chances of Success. That's right. Everything you need to know to launch your career as a singer-songwriter, all based on my 40 years in the live performance arena, and believe me, I've seen it all. In my book, you'll find the 10 things you have to deal with before even thinking about becoming a singer-songwriter performer. You'll also learn about the 5 things every singer-songwriter can do this weekend to make their live show better. 5 things I can guarantee that you are not doing already. Plus, there's tips on songwriting and staging, photo and video shoots, publishing, merch, dozens of other topics. All written for people who don't particularly like to read. And again, it's free. Just go to the Business Side of Music website homepage and look for my book cover. Click on it, and a free digital copy of my book will be yours. I'm Larry Butler, and I approve of this message. Thanks.
Back in the studio here in Nashville, Tennessee, Jack Sharkey is sitting across the table. Not only is he the technical guru with KEF Speakers.
One of, and yeah, I mean, I'm in there, yeah.
We're going to say the technical guru.
Well, you're very kind.
With KEF Speakers. But he's also an associate of mine in a new podcast that we're creating called Between the Notes.
Yeah.
That'll be a little different than the business side of music.
I think because it's going to be... I think the fun thing about Between the Notes is the way the two of us come at it. Because I'm a fan. I've been in the business for years, but not as an insider. I'm an outsider looking in, and so I live and breathe music and trivia and things like that. And you kind of know what you're talking about from that end. So I can't wait to get started. We're a little delayed, and that's on.
You had some things get in the way, like a daughter's
weddings and things and stuff. But
it happens.
Yeah, I would say the holidays notwithstanding, within the next month or so, and I'm very excited to get that going.
Looking forward to that. Well, in the meantime, let's talk a little bit more about Christmas music. Right before the break, I mentioned Johnny Mathis, and of course, it seems like as a kid growing up, I remember the Christmas specials on television, the Andy Williams Christmas special.
With the fake snow, always the fake snow. Yeah.
And I'll still get on YouTube and watch those little clips that they put on there. I think it was a different generation of music appreciation, if that makes sense, because Christmas music at that time in our lives, well, it was a different world.
Right.
Okay. And it was very traditional. Even Barbara Streisand, doing her Christmas album. Everybody came out with a Christmas hits.
Before it became a cash grab. Right. Which is one
before Mariah Carey.
Well, exactly. And listen, I even in my notes, one of the first things I spoke about was I wrote about was that song. It's a great song. Let's not deny that All I Want for Christmas is a great pop song. It's well produced. Mariah's a tremendous talent. Right? But I can't listen to the song because I'm being told it's a great song.
Yeah.
Not only by the powers that be or by the industry, but by the artist herself. And listen, Mariah, I love you. I love your song. Let me decide if I think it's a great song. That's my problem with it, is we're pushed. When it first came out in 92, kids loved it. It was wonderful. It was a really beautiful song. It's kind of enough already. You know, that's my opinion.
Well, and I agree with you from the perspective that I think it's just been overplayed.
Yeah.
Now, when you say that, well, why don't you say the same thing about Holiday Inn or White Christmas or a Christmas song or...
It's organics.
Yeah.
There's a difference, And you go back to the Christmas specials in the 60s and 70s. Christmas is about innocence, right? It's, at its very essence, it's about innocence, and it's about purity, and it's about children. And so there was a sweetness to those that we look at now. We're a little jaded about it. Isn't that naive? Yeah, that's kind of the point.
Yeah,
right?
It is the point.
Right. And I think that's why Christmas and Christmas music is such a powerful force in our society, because whether we want to admit it or not, we want that. We would rather all be in an Andy Williams special than in some horrible thing that, is out there today. It's the truth.
Yeah,
right?
Bad Santa.
That is utterly perfect. We'd all rather be in an Andy Williams special than in Bad Santa. Yeah.
And you know what? I think all of those movies, for the most part, have a special merit. But, man, when you get back to the traditional sense of things... Now, fast forwarding a little bit, 1990, I think it was, Home Alone.
Fabulous.
And I think John Williams did some of his best work when he wrote the soundtrack
score
for that film.
It's great. I was listening to that on the way, and I listened to that exact "We Wish You a Merry Christmas" from that movie, and I think that was the title of it. Now that's what it was. John Williams was brilliant in that, and the movie, again, it's sweet, it's innocent, it's comic book fun. It wasn't harmful. It wasn't, and that's what makes that movie so sweet. I never think of that as a Christmas movie, though. I think of it as a Thanksgiving movie, which is, I think, because it's one of the first movies I took my son to, just he and I, to the theater, and it was Thanksgiving weekend. So, like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, in my brain, Thanksgiving movies. Yeah. Yeah.
See, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
That's, of course, anything John Candy, it's right up there with me.
Yeah.
Jumping back to Home Alone, somewhere in my memory, which was the title track for that film, every time you hear it on the radio or on something, boom, it not only takes you to Home Alone, but it kind of takes you to that Christmas time type vibe.
To that city or that little village in Chicago that they made so wonderfully that we all want to live in. We all want to live in, running down to the pharmacy to buy a toothbrush.
Right.
That's where we want to be. Again, that goes back to the innocence of Christmas and why it is so important to everybody. And I think as we embrace that innocence once a year, it sounds kind of corny, sounds kind of trite, but wouldn't it be wonderful to stretch that out? Maybe make it into February. We might all be a little better off, right?
Or at least January 1st, not cut it right off, Take
the tree down, we're out of here.
Yeah, it's New Year's Day.
But we're so sick of it by then because it's just on and on and on.
You're talking to a guy who will literally watch Hallmark Christmas movies in July, okay? I will do that. Jumping back to Home Alone, of course, the one scene with John Candy, with the polka band, trying to get Kevin McAllister's mom home.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to meet John Candy back in the late 80s.
Did you?
I was on Ringo's All-Star Tour, and I think we were playing in New Jersey, the Garden State Amphitheater, I think is where we were.
Garden State Arts Center, right?
Yeah, Garden State.
My home theater.
Mondale, New Jersey.
Homedale, New Jersey.
We were in Homedale, New Jersey.
Exit 112 on the Garden State Parkway for those of us who have been in the area. Yeah.
And John Candy just showed up backstage.
No kidding.
And so when the show would end, the every night, you do the set and then thank you, good night. Everybody walks off the stage. You wait 1 minute for the prerequisite, encore to come out. John Candy went out and started doing a shtick.
Did he really?
Yeah, at the Arts Center, in front of whatever it was, 10,000 people or something.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying, thanks so much to Ringo and the boys. Menudo will be out in a few minutes, And he was just a laugh. Right. Well, then the show's over and we're going back to our hotel in New York, and I'm getting on the elevator, and there's John Candy.
Really?
And I got to ride up with him.
Yeah.
And just the guy was so genuine.
He is what he said he was. Yeah.
So every time I will see a movie, whether it's Planes, Trains, and Automobiles or Home Alone or Uncle Buck or any of those,
right?
That's John Candy.
That's wonderful. What a great memory you have.
Yeah.
To carry that memory with you is what I mean.
I'm very
to own that
fortunate.
memory. Yeah.
So anyway, that's my Home Alone memory.
That's
I
great.
hear that music. And I think another one too, and it ties in a little bit with Home Alone, but it also ties in with, I think was number 3, number 4, definitely top 5 for me in movies and songs. And this song actually might be number 2 or number 3. Is the film The Santa Claus with Tim Allen.
Okay.
And there's a song that is in, and they don't play the entire song, which is interesting, but it still means something to me every time I hear it. And it's also in Home Alone, and that's Carol of the Bells.
Sure. Okay. And Carol of the Bells, by the way, was the song I was listening to from the John Williams score.
Oh, yeah.
So sorry about that. Yeah, I knew I was wrong about that. But yeah, now that's a different version of it, though.
They're different versions, yeah. But every time I hear it, I just go, yeah, okay, this puts me in the Christmas spirit. Right. So I think, that song in itself, Carol of the Bells, and I tell you who does a great job of it. They're called the Piano Guys. I don't know if you've ever seen them or not.
I have not seen them, but I have heard them. Yeah.
They have a video, and I post it. It's on YouTube, and I post it every year. And now the Piano Guys is kind of a little bit of a misconception because it's really a couple piano guys and one cellist.
Right.
And the cellist does this rendition of Carol of the Bells in this music video, and it's really just him, and they layer him playing the different parts. out in the snow and on an ice skating rink and in the woods. And yeah, I listen to that and I'm like, okay, get the eggnog out. I'm ready.
That's great.
Let's do it. Yeah. So I think Carol of the Bells is probably right up there as one of my all-time favorites.
That, and it's funny, it brings me into an area that's always a little touchy. Certainly in my family, it's very touchy because I'm the outlier in my family when I name these next two Christmas artists, which I'm not going to use a superlative here. I don't enjoy them. They're not enjoyable to me. Okay. The rest of my family thinks that I am as wrong and tone deaf as they come, and that's fine. But Mannheim Steamroller and Trans-Siberian Orchestra is, and again, it's because I don't want to be all hepped up and angry at Christmas. I want to kind of be mellow and relaxed.
Right.
And so as soon as you said Carol of the Bells, the first thing that comes into my mind is the version by Trans-Siberian that is just too much for me.
It is a little aggressive, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, it goes back to what my feelings about the time of the season are. Yet for, my kids and my family, it's a staple. It's and I imagine that's kind of what my parents may have felt when they heard Springsteen's Santa Claus is Coming to Town, right?
Yeah.
Right?
I'd have to agree with your parents there, I think.
See, now, I love it. And I have a very specific memory of the very first time I heard it and who I was and what I was doing at the time. And so regardless of how old I get, the first time I hear that song every year, I'm brought back to a parking garage in Toms River, New Jersey. I had to start my car with 2 wires because the ignition was broken. I had no money, and I was the happiest guy to be. But I imagine my parents utterly hated that. And apparently, I'm alone on that one, too.
Yeah, so. I just never got there. Other great... Oh, well, let me back up first and say, Debbie and I actually went and saw Mannheim Steamroller in concert in Las Vegas.
Okay, what'd you think?
Holy cow.
Good.
What an amazing show.
Interesting.
It's not just a musical journey, but they bring in this visual perspective that is, you've got angels flying overhead and it's snowing on you and inside a theater.
Yeah, see, maybe I don't appreciate it from that angle. And again, I don't think it's fair to lump Mannheim and Trans-Siberian in the same category.
I think it's apples and oranges.
Yeah, but but that's what happens in my brain. I sort of shut down and they become the same. Yeah.
Now, there is a rendition of Silent Night, which is also one of my all-time favorite Christmas songs that Mannheim Steamroller does that I just absolutely love. They've got like some wind blowing and it's just this violin.
I have heard it and I do like it. Yeah.
And then at the end you hear the Christmas bells, going off in the distance. And I thought, okay, that's one of the best renditions. I think probably my favorite Christmas song would be a hymn, or I should say would be the hymn O Holy Night.
Yes.
Now, as a kid growing up, Christmas Eve service at church for my parents was always so important. Now, me, kid, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, whatever, I'm waiting for Santa. Sure. I want to dig under the tree the next day. So can we just go home and go to bed?
It's enough of this already. Let's get moving here. Yeah.
But it was such a beautiful time. You'd walk into this church and they had the little luminarios, the paper bags with the candles in them, lining the sidewalks. And, you get the story of baby Jesus being born and the 3 wise men. And then this guy, I remember his name to this day, Cal Wilson, would come out, a beautiful Irish tenor guy.
Okay.
And he'd come out and then they'd start the old organ and he'd sing O Holy Night. And at the end of it, you're like going,
it's stirring. Yeah, that's wonderful.
So every time I hear that song, I still feel that way.
See, and that brings up an interesting point because when we talk about Christmas music, right, there's really 2 types of Christmas music. There's the secular, which is what we've talked about mostly here. Right. And then there's the reverent or the hymnal based. And O Holy Night is certainly up there. Silent Night, because, knowing the story of how he wrote that song in, the Swiss Alps, and he was on his way home from church, and it was a beautiful, Christmas cold winter evening with the stars, and it brings you back to that. And I think it's important to understand that you can have both during the season.
I do.
Right?
I agree. Yep. Absolutely.
And so I think what I'm going to try to do is always, and you really have kind of schooled me in a sense that there are two types of Christmas music. There's the reverent and there's the secular. So my favorite, I'm going to be with you, is O Holy Night, Good King Wenceslaus, which I had never really heard until I married my wife, and it's her favorite of all time. And now, for a variety of reasons, I love it. And then you have the secular.
And then let's go on the other end of the spectrum. The movie, one of my favorites, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation,
which is just ridiculously stupid and funny.
Yeah, Chevy Chase at his best. Yeah. Now, what I found interesting was Lindsey Buckingham's, I think it's Holiday Road.
Yep, Holiday Road.
They used in every other National Lampoon movie, every other National Lampoon vacation movie, but they didn't use it in Christmas
Isn't it
Vacation.
interesting? Yeah.
They used something else. And then I think the other thing was how they really kind of embedded, or maybe I should say inbreaded, some of these songs like Mealy Kaliki Maka, Bing Crosby. The shitter's full. This music's playing. I'll never listen to that song again without thinking about.
It kind of ruined the Andrews Sisters for me.
Yeah, Randy Quaid, filling the toilet on the motorhome. But those types of, and the Ray Charles song, and I wish I could remember the title of it in that movie, when Chevy Chase is sitting up in the attic, he's been locked in and he's watching the old home movies.
Yeah.
But those types of songs that you hear, once again, trigger those emotions, that kind of feel-good thing.
And a special shout-out to Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who absolutely captured the zeitgeist of 1989 and the yuppies and what people were really like and how insufferable they were with their Bang & Olufsen stereo and the whole bit. So you have to give her props for that, because it was a brilliant portrayal that she did there.
And so, then you think about, then you think about Christmas Vacation, the actual song, the theme song, because they didn't use Holiday Road. And I didn't realize this until that I read it, but it was Mavis Staples and the Staple Singers.
Yes.
That sang that.
Yes. And, now I have to think about it. Do they even have a Christmas album? Because if there's a Christmas album that I would listen to.
There's not on that movie.
Okay.
There is no official soundtrack. I read there's a bootleg that has come up. There's no official soundtrack for that movie.
And do the Staple Singers have a Christmas album separately?
That's a good question.
Because I'm going to have to find out. Because if they do, that's my go-to from now on. Yeah. That's great. See, it's funny because, we forgot A Christmas Story. We forgot Christmas Vacation and all these other things. You begin to realize how embedded it is. And it's not just these one or two songs. It's not just, all the TV commercials are playing too early in the year, or,
July.
Yeah, right. Tie a big bow on your Mercedes-Benz, which, by the way, nobody really does that. Nobody, first of all, I don't know where you would get the bow big enough to tie onto your Lexus, right? So again, it's that whole trap of commercialization, of course, right? And I don't begrudge anybody that at all. But it's the innocence and the fun of it. When you can talk about a stupid Chevy Chase movie and it brings back joy and laughter, it's a great thing. It's a great thing.
In the studio here in Nashville, Tennessee, sitting across the podcast table from me is Jack Sharkey as he's getting ready to imbibe, I think, in his rum. When you have a Korg synth at your fingertips, the possibilities are endless. Be it digital, analog modeling, altered FM, wave sequencing, or the multi-engine synth, Korg gives you easy access to a variety of features to help you get the perfect sounds quickly. Whether you're a professional musician or just starting out, Korg truly has a synthesizer to help you express yourself. Visit Korg.com or your favorite Korg dealer to get your hands on one of their products to create new music always. Korg, the official sponsor of the business side of music. Back in the studio here in Nashville, Tennessee, Jack Sharkey is sitting across the table. And let me clarify, he is drinking water.
Yes.
But you did bring...
I did. I brought Diplomatico Reserva. This is going to reside here at Music Dog Studio as part of the Between the Notes podcast, which we will probably be filming not in the morning hours like we are this. Right. So I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. But if the folks at Diplomatico are listening, you can get in contact with us, and we'll be more than happy to have you be part of the Between the Notes podcast. It's very good rum.
Yeah, we're going to find out sooner than later. So during the break, we heard from our continuity person.
Continuity checked in with us.
Yeah, over the intercom.
Over the intercom.
Hey,
I love your intercom system.
You
here.
forgot Silver Bells. Well, I thought we had mentioned it, but maybe we didn't. Silver Bells is absolutely my wife's favorite Christmas song.
You know, and again, it brings us back to this place that maybe it existed, maybe it didn't. It brings us back to this snowy street in the nice little town and wherever we want to live, but maybe we didn't really live. And it's the hustle and bustle, and you took off from work or took off from school, and that joy. And so that joy is what we're chasing. It doesn't really exist. But then I say, did it ever really exist, or is it this place?
I think it existed in our minds.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And it's perfectly fine, because if I can listen to Silver Bells and be super excited about that special gift and the packages, and the Andy Williams is beginning to look like a lot like Christmas,
right. Or Let It Snow, or
right. It's okay, because, I don't need to necessarily live in that world as long as I can go to that world. And that's what music does for us. It takes us to places where we can't go physically, but we can certainly go emotionally. And that's the best part.
And I think we overlooked another one that was reminded to us during the break, and that's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Yeah.
Gene Autry did that back in 1930-something, I think it was.
Late 30s. Yeah. May have even been a little bit before that. And that, Santa Claus Was Coming to Town came out at around the same time. The 30s, the Great Depression, things were not so good.
Right.
And the amount of Christmas music that is part of our dialogue and part of our lexicon now came from some very, very difficult times. You had mentioned Bing Crosby and Christmas Island is one, and I'm not even going to try and butcher the title that he did with the Andrews Sisters.
Oh, the Kaliki Mikilaka.
Very nice job there,
I think
Bob.
I just butchered that again. Yeah.
Came out during World War II, right? So,
yes.
These 30s and 40s are some really, very difficult times.
People were trying to forget a lot of things.
Yeah. And that's okay. And there are so many parallels to where we are today. But maybe that's just the way the human condition works. And maybe that's the importance of Christmas and Christmas music, whether it be secular or it be reverent. That's and that's something that's really kind of exciting and fun. It gets lost sometimes when all we do is complain about All I Want for Christmas being on the radio too much.
Well, and we're going to dig way back here.
Okay.
But I want to get to what you want to talk about, because it's near and dear to my heart too. But getting down that path, a couple of things. Claymation shows that came out. You had Frosty the Snowman.
Yeah.
You had Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer with The Land of Misfits.
Yep.
Those were great movies. But I think the one that trumps them all is the Charlie Brown Christmas special.
It's the best. And when you know the story of it, how it was, almost an afterthought. It was produced so quickly. And wow, I don't want to use the word too much, but it's that innocence again, that naivete that is around that, but the message is so strong, and it's just part of our lives.
Which one came first? Was it the Thanksgiving or was it Christmas, the Charlie Brown?
I believe it was Christmas in '66,
okay.
And then the next year was Halloween, and then the Thanksgiving one came shortly after that, I believe. But you talk about the soundtrack to a Christmas special or any television special. Vince Guaraldi, one of the unheralded jazz pianists of the time, and it's a brilliant record all on its own. Forget Christmas time; it's brilliant on its own, and then you add that in. And this speaks to my love for that album. At Linus and Lucy, da 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 da, right?
Yeah.
51 seconds in, Mr. Guaraldi had a little bit of problem with the note that he hit there, and he kind of fat fingers a note, and it's plain as day, and you can hear it. That would never be allowed today. Got to retake that, got to redo that. But the beauty of that is how human it is, and how joyful and spiritual it is in that sense, because there's like, no, you know what, that takes pretty good.
Yeah.
Fat finger notwithstanding, let's go for it. And so every year when I hear it, and, I used to think, let me ruin this song for you. And it doesn't ruin the song. It makes the song even more special.
Well, it makes it humanistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, again, is lost in today's day and age, because we've kind of let perfect be the enemy of good sometimes, and in the pursuit of perfection, which you can do so easily now.
Oh, in this business, yeah.
Yeah, and my world includes mistakes and errors and things that didn't go real well.
Oh, good. I thought I was the only one.
No, I'm right there with you. And apparently so is Vince Guaraldi and his utterly genius take on that special. Yeah.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to that because
51 seconds in, folks. It's right there.
Yep. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, such a great soundtrack. And every time I see that on, and it's sad because you don't see it on television much anymore. Thank goodness we own the DVD set that's got Christmas and Thanksgiving and Halloween in it. But it takes me back to when my kids were kids and they were doing their Christmas pageants at school. And, I'm so thankful that I videotaped some of that. Mm-hmm. Because once again, when we talk about, was it really an innocent time?
Right.
All you have to do is go back and watch your kids in those pageants and go, it was an innocent time back then.
Was the rest of the world insane? Absolutely. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I think that's the connection. Because to me, my father was in a good mood one day a year. And that was the day that we went up in the attic and got the Christmas decorations down. But it was the smell of the plywood.
Yes.
The smell of the insulation. And we had a weird sort of ladder. You had to climb up and get into this little hole to get in the attic. And it was like really horrible.
Oh, my gosh.
Except for that one day a year.
Yeah.
And that, again, like I said, my memories are so strong of that because more than Christmas Day, more than any other time, that was family. That was a day. My mom had on this Jack Jones Christmas album. On our little horrible stereo we had downstairs. and as things started to become available on CD, whenever I was telling my wife, I have to get this Jack Jones Christmas album. It's the greatest Christmas album ever. You'll never hear anything better than it.
Have you found it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Right? It's okay. But it's in my brain. That was my mom's favorite. So now we're talking, 50 years ago or more.
It's the memories that were attached to it more than the music.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing, Harry Connick Jr., to my children, his first Christmas album with Santa Claus. I can't think of the song. I just was listening to it where Santa comes and takes him out the window and they fly around town and stuff and happy ho ho ho. I'm losing it here.
Yeah.
But to and this is perfect.
I've got that deer in the head like
You're not helping me, Bob, at all. My off-key rendition notwithstanding. But that's what makes it perfect because to my family, to my kids, that's Christmas to them when we brought that out. That and the Leon Redbone with Dr. John album is stunning and spectacular, and
that kind of gets us back to Elf because the snowman in Elf,
same guy,
loosely based on,
and actually Leon Redbone voiced that snowman.
Oh, did he really?
He did voice that, yeah. Again, Jon Favreau, shout out for your brilliance on doing things like that. But here's some obscure music that's really good, and I think the beauty thing is that every family has their own attic smell. They have their own Jack Jones album, right? And we never want to lose sight of that.
It's so interesting that you say that, and I'm going to ask you a question here in a second, so be ready. But I remember as a kid, and it was right around Thanksgiving every year. Mm-hmm. I think the turkey hadn't been, put away for the day. We would do the same thing. My dad would get the ladder out. We'd go up into the attic in the garage.
Yeah.
And I remember the smell of those cardboard boxes that all the Christmas ornaments are. Now everything's in plastic tubs. That's what we keep everything in. I still have all of my parents' I shouldn't say that. I have most of my parents' original Christmas ornaments. Mm-hmm. Some of them during World War II when there was no metal, so it was cardboard and string on the glass blown ornaments. Still have those.
Yeah.
When did you start setting up for Christmas? What was the official day that you said, all right, your dad would pull the trigger and you'd start setting up for Christmas?
So my dad's birthday was December 6th, so we were not allowed to have any Christmas until after the 6th, and that was like a rule.
I have to laugh. I'm going to interrupt you here because my birthday's the 7th, Debbie's is the 10th, and Debbie's rule was they didn't set up for Christmas until after her birthday.
Right. Now, I'm sure within a week or two, my mom, was just all about Christmas and wrapping and stuff. And, so the dining room table would have gifts on it right after Thanksgiving. Sometime in December, we would decorate, but we never, and I mean ever, got our tree until I was driving myself until Christmas Eve. We never got it, never in the house, and family lore of Christmas in my house is one to behold, because it would be 5 o'clock, and my father's thing was just like Ralphie's father in A Christmas Story. You get the good deal on Christmas Eve. So he wouldn't go get the tree until 5 o'clock on Christmas Eve, right?
Wow.
And then it was, it never fit in the stand right. It always had to get tied to the wall, be falling over, the lights, and, and there was always this tension about Christmas scheduling. And I'm sure as a little kid, I probably didn't pay much attention to it, because like you said at church, it's like, come on, let's just get to the gifts, right? But looking back on it, it was just like, wow, poor scheduling really just was rampant in my family. But then by 10 o'clock on Christmas Eve, then the music came on, right? And then, Christmas happened and everybody was there, and it was a beautiful thing. That's how my family did it. It was perfect. Yeah. Now, my family today, we do Christmas Black Friday. That's when it all kind of gets started. But I still have that December 6th problem in my head. Wow. I was never going to get rid of that.
Yeah. Of course, with us, it was, we did live tree, or we would go to the Christmas tree lot.
Yeah.
For several years. And then about 1966, 67, my dad got this wild hair, and he went out and purchased a Reynolds aluminum Christmas tree that sat in a stand that rotated, that had lights
underneath of it.
Yeah.
A great phantasm of Christmas. I have this my father's sister lived up in North Jersey, and we'd go there at Christmas time, and I have this stark memory of that exact tree, the aluminum Christmas tree with the light underneath and the sound that the motor made from the light.
Yep.
And I would talk to my cousins. This is 30, 40 years past, and I would insist. And my cousin was like, "You're wrong. We would never have that kind of tree in our house." But somewhere in my memory, somebody had that tree, and I loved it. I thought it was the greatest thing ever.
Oh, it's technology.
Sure,
This is space age. Yeah.
With the motor again. Wait. Yep, there's the motor. I can hear it spinning. Yeah.
and of course, when my kids were little, I wanted to get back into the traditional thing, and that was take them to the Christmas tree farms and cut the tree down. And once again, you get the stand, you put the tree in, it doesn't fit in the stand, you got to take it out and cut it again.
Yeah.
And after probably about 4 or 5 years of that, I said, okay, we're done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's enough.
We're going to go buy an authentic looking fake Christmas tree.
Right.
Which is what Debbie and I have now, and it sits in our garage. Actually, right now, it sits on top of our storm shelter in our garage. But we're going to get it out in a couple of weeks and set it up in the living room and start decorating.
Yeah. For 25 years, my wife hosted Christmas. Okay, it was at our house, and I lived there. That's all. But my wife hosted Christmas.
Right.
And
you were just an innocent bystander.
I was the guy that lit the candles and made sure the fire was in the fireplace. And hey, you want a beer? That was my job.
Yeah.
Her job was Christmas. And we don't do that anymore, right? Because now we go to the kids and the grandkids and we do all this stuff. And it's awesome, because we had those days and it was wonderful. And it goes back to tie in, because now I get to see my kids doing their Christmas their way. But there's a little bit of the old man in there, and stuff like that. Yeah. And I imagine my parents, and your parents all felt the same way. And again, that brings us back to the music, because the music is what ties it all together, and that we all have to take with us. And that's the beautiful part about Christmas music. On the way up today, I was telling our continuity director, while you were getting ready to stage the show, that I was listening to my drab science and political true crime podcast on the way up. I was like, I put on my Spotify Christmas playlist for the first time this year, and I don't even remember what song came up. I know Springsteen's "Santa Claus Is Coming to Town" came up. And my all-time Christmas rapping from the Waitresses, which is just the most wonderful Christmas song ever.
I don't think I've ever heard that.
Oh, please. You have to. That's the song of my people, of the early 1980s college people. That's my people right there. And the smile just came. I'm driving on 65 coming up, and the smile just came on my face, because all those, now at this point, 5.5 decades of Christmas memories just flood in.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we got to spend this time together and
This is great.
Reminisce and share. And listen, as soon as we're finished here, we're going to open the run, and then we're going to open the rum.
Yeah.
And then you're going to help me get the Christmas tree down off the storm shelter, and we're going to get set up.
I didn't know, but I'm ready to go. Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Bob, for having me. I love this podcast. I love the honor of being a part of this podcast, and I am so excited for Between the Notes. And
Me too.
If I can just get that little plug in there. So, yeah, man, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
This is Tom Sabella. Merry Christmas, everybody. God bless you all.